My name is Elena. The night my mother's perfect reputation collapsed was the same night I finally reclaimed my life. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and polished smiles. Donors in designer gowns sipped champagne while cameras flashed. At the center of it all stood my mother, Victoria Hale, Philanthropist of the Year, beloved board member of the Bright Horizons Foundation, and beside me, holding my hand tightly, was my 5-year-old daughter, Lily. Just moments before the award presentation, Lily had walked up to my mother in her soft lavender dress, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Clover, Grandma," she asked innocently, her voice small but clear, "why did you leave us at that cold place on Christmas?" The room fell silent. That question was the crack that shattered everything. A few weeks earlier, my life had quietly fallen apart. I had worked 8 years as a senior accountant at a respected firm. I believed loyalty meant security. I was wrong. In early December, an email arrived. Immediate restructuring. By the end of the day, my position no longer existed. I told myself I'd recover quickly. I always did. Then our landlord informed me the building had been sold. We had 30 days to move. Savings drained faster than hope. Job applications vanished into silence. Holiday hiring freezes made everything worse, with nowhere else to turn. I called my mother. She lived in a gated estate with my younger sister, Sophie, and Sophie's husband, Daniel, a tech entrepreneur who talked big but delivered little. His startup had been almost successful for 3 straight years. When I explained my situation, my mother didn't ask how Lily was doing. Instead, she said, "Sell the lake house." The lake house wasn't just property. It was my grandfather's gift to me, the only person in the family he believed had integrity. His will made it clear. Ownership could not be transferred for 5 years without my written consent. I went to see her in person. Their marble floors gleamed. Sophie greeted me with rehearsed sympathy. Daniel barely glanced up from his laptop. My mother's offer was simple. I could stay temporarily if I signed the lake house into a family trust. Daniel explained they needed collateral for an investor loan. I refused. The temperature in the room dropped instantly. "If you won't cooperate," my mother said coldly, "then handle your own problems." As I walked out, I heard Daniel whisper, "Give her a week. She'll fold." By Christmas Eve, I had $400 left, out of options. I called my mother again. She agreed to pick us up. For one fragile moment, I believed she had changed her mind. But instead of driving toward her estate, she stopped outside a homeless shelter. "This is where irresponsibility leads," she said, not even looking at Lily. Then she drove away. Lily stood in the freezing rain, clutching Clover. "Mommy, did we do something bad?" I've never felt rage like that. That's when we met Mr. Carter, the shelter's director. He recognized my mother's car. Victoria Hale wasn't just a donor. She was a board member of the foundation funding the shelter. And according to him, the luxury SUV she drove had been purchased with foundation money. Money meant for families like the one sleeping inside. He showed me an internal email from the board secretary, Mrs. Lang, detailing suspicious transactions. Before I could process it all, a law firm contacted me on behalf of the family trust. They offered $12,000 for my lake house, worth nearly $400,000, and threatened legal action. Sophie called next. First apologetic, then desperate, then cruel. "If you don't sign, we'll make sure people know Lily is living in a shelter," she warned. Days later, Child Protective Services showed up. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint claiming I was an unfit mother. The report had been submitted through the Foundation's internal portal. That was the moment I stopped hoping for reconciliation and started preparing for war. Carter and I gathered everything: financial records, vehicle registrations, email copies Mrs. Lang secretly preserved before she was intimidated into silence. Then an invitation arrived, the Foundation's annual gala. Inside was a handwritten note from my mother. Last chance to be part of this family. Sign the transfer papers. She wanted to humiliate me publicly. Instead, we decided to expose her publicly. The night of the gala, she stood radiant in gold silk, ready to receive her award. Just before the applause began, Mr. Carter requested the microphone. He called for an independent audit. Screens lit up with evidence. Then I stepped forward. I told them everything: the caution, the shelter, the false CPS report. And then Lily asked her question. "Grandma, why did you leave us at that cold place on Christmas?" There is no defense against a child's truth. Within minutes, the board voted to suspend my mother pending investigation. Donors began withdrawing support. Whispers turned into condemnation. Her empire collapsed in real time. After the gala, Mr. Carter offered me a position overseeing financial compliance at the Foundation. He said integrity like mine was rare. The Foundation also approved funding to restore my grandfather's lake house. By spring, Lily and I moved in. We painted the walls soft yellow, planted tomatoes in the garden, fixed the broken. One evening, Sophie texted me. Daniel had filed for divorce. Investors had pulled out. The estate was being sold. She apologized. I didn't respond. Not yet. Healing takes time. One night, as fireflies blinked over the water, Lily asked, "Why doesn't Grandma visit?" I knelt beside her. "Sometimes people make choices because they're scared," I said. "We can love them, but from far away." She thought for a moment and nodded seriously. "People are mean when they're scared." Maybe she was right, but fear is not an excuse for cruelty. And that night, watching the water ripple under the moonlight, I realized something. I no longer needed my mother's approval. I had my daughter, my grandfather's legacy, my dignity, and that was more than enough.